So by going to the Sermon on the Mount and the Beatitudes, trying to use them as a filter through which we evaluate the ideas of the world and their Beatitudes, an implicit assumption in that is that this sermon, which is 2,000 years old now, is still relevant for today. And so if you were talking to someone who was skeptical and said, okay, well, we're dealing with modern problems, even though it was great in its day, can a 2,000-year-old sermon really be relevant to the moral crisis or the good crisis, or I should say crisis of good they're facing today? How would you respond to them in that challenge of the relevance of the Sermon on the Mount to today?
I would ask them, what are the top two concerns of your life? What are the top two issues that you're most concerned about in the world? And they would probably be reflected in the Sermon on the Mount. So a person who is justice-minded would probably say, I'm concerned about, racial justice, prison reform, any number of injustices. Well, there's a beatitude for that. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. And that word righteousness is a robust word coming out of the Old Testament that is, yes, moral righteousness, but it's also justice. The root word for justice is there. So, so if you're concerned about justice, Jesus Christ is actually more concerned about justice. He not only wrote about it, he lived a just life, more just than anyone else. In fact, if you're cynical about justice in the world and people being true, this is the only person on the planet that ever lived up to his proclamations about justice entirely. He's the only person that ever lives up to all of his beliefs. Nobody else on the planet does that. So if you're concerned about justice, I commend you. Let's take a look at the only person that ever held up all of his claims about justice and actually wrote with profound wisdom and on these topics. So that would be the way I would respond. That's a dusty sermon. Well, what are your concerns? I'm willing to bet they're reflected in these Beatitudes.
Yeah.